Hey everyone, Selwyn here from WynnStrength.com. On this video, we're wrapping up the second week of the Darkhorse training program by Alsruhe with day 4 upper body push-pull day. I'll leave links below, like usual, for Alsruhe's video explaining the template as well as the liftvault.com website, which has the workout in a Google Sheets form, which makes it super easy to follow along with and plug in your own numbers and weights and choose your own exercises there. So here we go. So we started off today with some conditioning. We had some extra time today, and I was trying to fit it into an hour and a half. We got about an hour and 15 minutes today, which was great. But nevertheless, because it was upper body day, we're focusing on overhead press and bench press. I decided to try something different. I'll actually show a video of the warm-ups that I did today, which is unusual, just because it's something different with the tire sled. If you want to watch a video about how I made it, I'll leave a link here. That way you can make your own tire sled with an old tire. It really just costs a brand new set of tires, or going to a tire shop and asking them for an old tire. Nevertheless, super easy to make, costs about $5, and you can have your own tire. We did some walking downhill with the tire sled, and then, I don't know what you really call it, maybe some Y back pulls with a tire sled. Basically, you'll see it as I'm doing it. And that's a good way to warm up the entire back musculature and get the arms moving and just really get that blood flowing. And it also adds some movement into the legs as well with that explosive jump off the bottom. 10 minutes of that, and got around 8 rounds in, just walking up, walking down, pulling it back up, walking down, pulling it back up. Very minimal breaks in between. I really got the blood flowing, got the sweat dripping. So a nice way to get that full body warm up without any real complexity. Just get the body in motion is really how I like to warm up. And then I'll do some lighter weights with the main movements for the day, and then we'll just get right into the workout there. So starting off with the max effort, it was 4 sets. We did some weighted chin-ups, push presses, ab wheel rollouts, and dumbbell snatches. So we start off with the weighted chin-ups. Today we targeted a higher rep range, so 12 reps. Not something I'm used to doing. I'll admit that pull-ups, chin-ups are my strongest movement. I kind of stick to 10 and below reps and just started adding weight. So adding some weight as well as adding some more reps today really had some soreness at the end of that. But I enjoyed it nonetheless, and it's really good to mix that up, and it's something that I need to do, be able to do some more endurance there with the back and conditioning, and I think it's a great hidden way to work the biceps. I actually would recommend not doing any direct bicep movements until you can do a fair amount of pull-ups, because you're kind of wasting effort and not being as efficient as you could be as if you work on doing a bodyweight pull-up, whether that be working up with progressions with bands or even using the lat pull-down machine. I think if you had to choose between doing bicep curls and lat pull-downs, I would definitely do the lat pull-downs until you can do a chin-up. And then once you can string together 10 pull-ups in a row, that's when I think you should start developing, when you can start including direct arm movement. And that's mainly because pull-ups and chin-ups are probably one of the best ways to grow the arms, the biceps and specifically, because you're really using that as a lever arm there to help you. It's an assistance to the back, and you're really over-taxing the bicep by pulling your own body weight up or something close to it. And if you can't really do a pull-up or a chin-up repeatedly, I think I would dare say you're too weak to do a bicep curl, because you're losing out on efficiency of movement there. You could be doing something better, but instead we're doing not as good of a thing. But that's just my own personal recommendation and something that I do personally. I do a lot more pull-ups, chin-ups than I do bicep curls. Nevertheless, because we did a higher rep range, so the program is prescribing 12 to 15. 15 is probably out of my league right now. So we did 12 reps with 10 pounds. Not a lot of weight there, but I was really focusing on hitting that rep target. So for the last set, we actually had to drop down to 5-pound weight limit. Not much, but it is something, and we were still able to hit that 12 rep target, which I'm happy with. We followed it up with 5 rep max of the push press. This one was interesting, kind of pushing the heavier weights. It is a movement that it is getting better with practice and just repetitions, obviously, but Definitely helping to remember to breathe at the top of the push press. And if anything, you want to rest at the top and then make that bottom bit really explode out of there. So you get some stretch reflex, you get some leg drive, and you're able to lock it out at the top and really hold that weight up there and get used to a heavier weight than you would normally be able to push out with a strict press. And I think that's one of the benefits of the push press, is that you're able to handle super heavy weights. So you're able to overload your body by pushing up with the legs, and once you're at lockout, there's no more leg drive. So you're really practicing having to hold a heavy weight above your head out at lockout, which I think plays a big role in working on shoulder stability as well as core stability, because you really have to brace properly in order to keep that weight above head. And I noted that personally when my core wasn't locked in and wasn't performing the lift perfectly. That's when problems happen, and that's when the weight felt unbalanced, it felt unstable, it didn't feel easy to push up. So again, being able to use those heavier weights really trains the body to handle heavy weights. So when we do the strict press feels a little nicer because we've dialed in that technique, we've dialed in some more repetitions, we're kind of trying to carve out that perfect technique over time. And this is one of those tools that I think is very helpful. Nevertheless, we took it a bit conservative today, so we had 185 pounds for our top set of 5. We only did 4 sets, so it was 155, 165, 170, and 185. I thought I'd go for broke at the end there. I think I probably could have eked out a little more weight if we really pushed ourselves and transferred that through, but I'll take that as a good win today. Again, I always like to err on the side of being conservative with weight selection, especially when training, just so we don't burn out too quickly and we're able to give us something left in the tank to shoot for next time. We wrap that up with some ab wheels. These are coming along nicely. For the full 4 sets, we're able to do 10 reps, which I think is great. 40 reps total for the working sets, and I think that's a good progression there in order to work my way up to the standing ab wheel rollout. You all know that that's one of my goals. And then we wrapped up with the dumbbell snatch. Not my favorite movement at all. Really dislike it, but we just did 5 aside just to keep that blood flowing, and that just stayed at 50 pounds for the whole way through. So really stoked with today's max effort work. 5 rep max, 4 sets, hit 185 for the push press. I think that's a great improvement over my previous performances. I'm really knocking on that door of 200 pounds. So I'm hoping by the end of the program, we're well into that 200 pound range, mainly for the push press. I foresee that being a little later for the strict press there. So now we move on to the volume work, which is us just dialing back the weights and increasing the amount of reps that we do. So everything else stays the same movements. I did have to drop the weights for the chin-ups, so there were no longer weighted chin-ups. We just focused on regular body weight chin-ups, and the reps kind of dialed their way down. Ideally, they would have stayed at 12, but we hit 12, 10, 8, just because it's not my strongest movement. Then we move on to some push presses. The weight dropped down to 150 pounds. Target reps were 10 reps for the following volume set, so unfortunately, we were only able to get 11 reps for the first AMRAP set, but at least we hit that minimum 10. Ideally, I like to hit 12, but at least we got that 11 there, 1 over. We followed that with the second set at 150 pounds for 10. The last set was only 135 pounds. I was feeling some fatigue there, and it definitely felt shaky toward the top. And again, erring on the side of caution and conservatism, we'll drop that weight down to 135 and bash out another 10, so we're good with that. And then we just did again ab wheels and dumbbell snatches. So we wrapped up today with a dynamic effort work, which was incline bench press with some bands at 155 pounds. These felt good. I think I can pump up the weight a little bit more next week. And because of that, I did try an experiment with dropping the rest period. So this 10-minute EMOM actually took 8 minutes, where I was dropping the rest periods from a minute, whatever the 50 seconds was, to shorter and shorter periods of time towards the last half of that, because it just felt like I could attack the weights a little bit more aggressively this time and drop those weight rest periods down. So hopefully next week we get that right weight selection and move forward. Generally with these dynamic movements, I don't want to change anything once I've set. So don't want to change any of the weights, because it takes some time and it takes that conditioning aspect out of the workout. So in that regard, I will just change the rest period, so it's much easier to alter that. We'll shorten that down to try and get at least a good pump going and to get a good conditioning factor out of this workout. So that wraps up day 4, last day of week 2. And I think overall the program's going really well. I'm a big fan of it so far. Week 2 out of the 12 weeks, a little bit early to call conclusions, but I think we're doing really well. We're tracking progress nicely. The weight recommendations and selections are coming along. I really at a nice level for me, just because you can tailor it the first week. It's based off your old 1 rep maxes. Hit that first week, plug in the numbers, and then the following weeks you're able to adjust from there. So I think that's a great way to do it. Gives you something to shoot for at the front end, and then if your body isn't quite where it used to be the last time you tested these weights, you're able to adjust, and the program adjusts along the way with you. And having that percentage drop for the volume sets is perfect, because it does auto-regulate the program to agree. There is no RPE in this program, so one of the, I guess that could be a downfall for some people, and a con for others, or a pro for others as well, depending on which camp you fit into. I always still kind of use it RPE in the back of my mind when I'm doing the weights. I kind of figure out where this falls in the scale, just so I know how the progress is going. I'm not hitting 10s every time, because that's not really the ethos that I have for my training. Is I don't want to be testing each and every day. I do want to be pushing the limits, but I don't want to be hitting RPE 10s every single time. Talking like RPE 7s to 9.5s and the occasional 10 when we're trying to figure out where we need to be. But nevertheless, that's kind of how we stand with the auto regulation of the program. I think it's going great. I'm not too fatigued. That was one thing I was concerned with at the start of the program, was just the sheer amount of volume and weights and movements that we're doing, and the short rest periods, really making it really condensed program. So doing a lot in a short amount of time, especially when you compare it to the other programs that I'm used to, where we would take maybe 2 hours and wouldn't get as much volume or tonnage or intensity into that workout. Actually, sorry, we would get a lot more intensity, but a lot less tonnage and volume. So this is a nice mix-up. I think my body's adapting to it quite nicely. I have dropped a couple of pounds over the last couple of weeks, so I think that's a positive without my strength decreasing too much. I think when we ask the body for more, it does provide given time to adapt. And I think just it has been 2 weeks, but the workouts have called for heavier weights. I think the rest periods haven't strung out too much. So we are roughly within 10 minutes of the first week's time limits for the program. So I'm bumping up on that hour and a half mark. So something to work on in the future is to really dial in those rest periods and keep that workout to the hour and 15 minutes that is recommended by the program and by Brian Alsruhe, just that we are able to work on that conditioning. And we want to spend as little time in the gym on this program as possible, so we're not trying to be here for 3 hours. That's not the main focus of the program. We're trying to really condense, make this program as intensive as possible in order to drive those conditioning adaptations there. Subjectively, I think the program's going really well. I think I'm adapting positively. I think I'm able to put out, I feel stronger and a bit more conditioned than I was before starting the program. And I guess one of the negatives of the program is it's hard to compare week to week your tracking of hard data, simply because we do change. Not only does the sets and reps change over the course of the week, they change over the course of the program. So day 1, week 2 is hard to compare to day 1, week 1, because we've changed the rep pattern and the set pattern as well. So the weights aren't exactly there, and even if you compare tonnage, it's still, we can compare the tonnage, but the execution of that is different. I mean, just 2 extreme examples: we could squat 500 pounds once, or we could do bodyweight squats 20 times. That'd be roughly the same tonnage. I think, let's say it is, but they elicit 2 very different responses. So to compare the 2 purely based on tonnage isn't really achieving much, because we've reached the same tonnage, but we've gotten there 2 completely different ways and driven 2 different adaptation styles. So it's hard to compare week to week how I'm actually tracking. So I'm kind of basing it more on my subjective self-assessment, which is where RPE comes in, because now we can judge RPE on the programs, not only based on the movement, but based on each session. So each session is kind of staying same level of fatigue. Days here and there are up and down, but I think that comes back to more sleep and nutrition choices that I've been making over the course of the week. And I think the program is doing what it's meant to do, and it's driving changes and it's pushing my body to advance. And the fatigue and soreness isn't really getting too great, so I'm not feeling super fatigued before the start of the next workout in 1 or 2 days. So I think that's a good sign of the program, because we are not pushing past our limits. We're pushing up on the edge of the boundaries, and just kind of edging that boundary a little bit further each time without overshooting it, which means I'm driving myself into the ground. So the accumulated fatigue is not so great that we're not able to complete the next workout within that 1 to 2 day rest period. So I think that's a great sign of a good program. It does sound like a lot, it is brutal at the time, but if we look at it from a macro perspective, we're progressing very well and we're not too stressed out from doing this program. And I think to add a little bit more subjectivity to it, we can do session RPEs to gauge that. So if we're driving 10 RPE every single day, then I don't think that's great. But if you're, again, staying between that 8 to 9.5 RPE session range, then I think we're going really well. So wrapping up week 2, I think we're doing really good. I would recommend this program. Currently, I would recommend the program, but usually the troubles of a program and a template really start highlighting themselves towards the back end of the program when fatigue is setting in. We're doing the same thing. The repetitions kick in, like the repetitive nature of a program kicks in. So what I would say is right now, 2 weeks, we're still in the honeymoon phase of a program. You really need to assess the program right at the end of it when you hit that 12th week, not only subjectively and like personal preference, but also results. Did the program set out to achieve what it set out to achieve? Did you get stronger? Did I get more fit? Did I lose weight? Did I gain weight? Things like that. That's where we have some hard and fast goals that we can really base the program on objectively. And then subjectively, did I like the program? Did I like the movements that it did? Did it give me choice? Did it give me flexibility? Did it help me come back from setbacks? So things like that. Definitely a 12-week range is what you need to really assess a program. But for the first 2 weeks, still in the honeymoon phase, I'm still a fan. So we're going to keep doing this. Next week, I believe, 4th week, there is a break. So let's see how it goes. I'll leave a playlist again right here so you can track how I'm going over the Darkhorse training program. So you can track each day of each week. We'll leave some training overviews and some thoughts like usual. This has been Selwyn from WynnStrength. And remember, a better life through strength.